It starts with a phone call Drake never wanted the world to hear. A call so serious, so explosive, that even his closest security didn't breathe a word of it. But tonight, everything changes. Because Wack 100 just blew the lid off a behind-the-scenes confrontation that has the entire rap world frozen. According to Wack, the moment Drake fired back at Kendrick Lamar, he triggered something he never saw coming, a direct message from Piru that shut the whole operation down in seconds. This wasn't a warning. This was a command. Sources claim Drake's team went into full lockdown mode, scrambling, panicking, desperate to figure out how the situation escalated so fast. And the craziest part, the warning didn't come through record labels. It didn't come through managers. It came straight from the streets, and the tone was unmistakable. Stand down. Right now, Wack says Drake was stunned, speechless, completely blindsided. Whatever was said on that call hit him so hard that he backed off the Kendrick beef instantly, wiping plans, deleting responses, and shutting his studio down for the night. Fans are now demanding answers. Industry insiders are whispering that this was the one moment Drake realized he went too far. And Kendrick. He hasn't said a word, but the silence is starting to look like dominance tonight. We're diving into every leaked detail. The warning, the fallout, and the secret recording that supposedly proves everything. And trust me, once you hear this, you'll never look at this beef the same again. The story begins long before Wack 100 ever spoke a single word publicly. It begins inside a dimly lit studio in Toronto, where Drake's camp thought they had finally crafted the perfect response to Kendrick Lamar. The energy in the room was electric, tense, and heavy. Producers whispered to each other about whether the diss was too sharp, too personal, too bold. But Drake didn't care. He wanted smoke, and he wanted it loud. He believed he had the upper hand. The track was mixed, the artwork finalized, and the team was seconds away from scheduling the upload. That's when the first strange thing happened. Drake's lead engineer looked at his phone and froze. His face strained. He walked slowly to Drake, leaned in, and whispered something that made Drake's expression harden instantly. Drake grabbed the phone, stared at the message, and for a moment, the entire studio fell silent. No one knew what it said, but they all knew it was bad. Drake walked into a corner, lowered his voice, and responded with a single line. "Who sent this?" The reply came back fast, too fast, and whatever was written on that screen instantly changed his posture. Nobody involved in the session knew that while they were celebrating a new chapter in the Drake versus Kendrick war, forces outside the music world were already watching closely. Forces that didn't care about chart positions, awards, or lyrical sparring. Kendrick's words had crossed into something deeper, something connected to a network Drake was never supposed to touch. And when Drake fired his response, that network responded back loudly, according to insiders. The message Drake received came from someone directly linked to Piru, someone Drake did not expect to ever hear from. The message was blunt, unfiltered, and carried a tone that didn't need explanation. It simply said, "Tell your boy to chill. This goes further than you think." Drake didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stared at the message, silently calculating the implications. He knew the association mentioned in the text. He knew their history. He knew that when they spoke, things were already in motion behind the scenes, before Drake could even process the first message. A second one arrived, this time not a text but a direct call. Not through his personal number, not through his manager's number, through a line that only a handful of people in the industry even knew existed. A private contact he never expected to ring. Drake hesitated, looked at his engineer, then answered with a quiet, steady voice. Nobody in the room heard what the caller said, but they saw Drake's reaction. His shoulders stiffened. His jaw clenched. Whatever was being said on the other end, it wasn't a request. It was a warning. Insiders claimed the call was short, less than 30 seconds, but its impact was immediate. Drake hung up, locked his phone, and announced to the room, "Shut it down, everything." The room erupted instantly with questions. The manager demanded answers. The producers were confused. The marketing team insisted they couldn't pull the release after leaking teasers online. But Drake didn't explain. He didn't negotiate. He simply repeated, "Shut it down," and walked out of the room. Minutes later, security escorted everyone out of the studio except Drake's two closest advisors. Drake sat with them behind closed doors for nearly an hour. Voices rose. Chairs scraped. At one point, it sounded like a full argument was breaking out. Then, silence again. When the advisors finally left the building, they didn't speak to anyone. They didn't make eye contact. They left like men carrying state secrets. What Drake didn't know at the time was that Wack 100 already had pieces of the puzzle, while Drake's camp thought they were dealing with a private crisis. Wack was gathering information from people tied to the very individuals who made that phone call. Wack didn't plan to expose anything yet, but once he realized how big the situation was becoming, he knew there was no way to stay quiet. Meanwhile, social media was erupting. Kendrick fans were demanding Drake drop the response. Drake fans were insisting he was cooking something devastating. The industry insiders on Twitter were posting cryptic messages like, "Y'all don't even know what's moving right now, and this isn't rap beef anymore." Nobody knew exactly what these comments meant, but the tension online was so heavy you could feel it. Then the leaks started. A mysterious audio clip appeared in a Discord server known for sharing unreleased tracks. It was short, grainy, and chaotic, but Drake's voice was unmistakable. You could hear him saying, "Nah, we're not going that route. I'm not dealing with that. Not them." The clip spread like wildfire. Reddit erupted. Twitter lit up. Instagram pages started speculating wildly. Some claimed Drake was scared. Others claimed he had angered someone powerful. Others said this was a setup by Kendrick's team to make Drake look weak. But none of them had the full truth. The truth was exactly what Wack 100 later confirmed. Piru stepped into the situation directly. They didn't want things going too far. They didn't want the beef escalating into something that would drag old alliances, street histories, or unresolved tensions into the spotlight again. And according to multiple sources, the message was not optional. Drake's reaction wasn't fear. It was recognition. He knew the boundaries. He knew which worlds he wasn't supposed to cross into. And he knew that the moment the warning arrived, the situation was no longer about rap. Hours after the shutdown, Drake privately told his team the beef was going a direction I'm not touching. That's when another twist entered the picture. Someone from Kendrick's circle found out about the warning. And instead of backing off, they were amused. They allegedly sent a message that said he wasn't built for this part anyway. The disrespect was so shocking that even Drake's team was ready to fire back publicly. But Drake refused. He went silent. Completely silent. No tweets, no statements, no leaks. Just silence that spoke louder than any diss track ever could. That silence is what made Wack 100 furious enough to go public. He felt the culture was owed an explanation. He felt the people deserved to know why Drake backed down so fast. And once Wack speaks, you already know, the whole industry listens, just when the world thought it couldn't get more chaotic. Wack dropped the bomb that exposed everything. But that wasn't even the real shocker. The real shock was still coming, the part even Wack didn't expect to uncover. Wack 100 didn't plan to go public that night. He was actually on the phone dealing with something completely different when his source, someone tied directly into the Piru circle, sent him a voice note that made him stop mid-sentence. He replayed it twice just to make sure he heard it correctly. The recording was short, only a few seconds. But the message inside it was enough to flip the entire rap world upside down. The voice in the recording said, "Key, we already contacted him. He knows what time it is. Tell them to stop asking." No name was mentioned. No context. But Wack knew exactly who him meant. Drake. And that's when everything clicked. The silence. The canceled release. The frantic messages. The tension he sensed in the industry. It all lined up perfectly. Wack felt the weight of the recording immediately. He knew the rap world was starving for answers. He knew everyone wanted to understand why Drake didn't respond to Kendrick's diss. And he knew that if he didn't say something soon, the truth would twist itself into 1,000 rumors. So he did what Wack always does, he lit the match. He did what Wack always does, he lit the match. He opened Instagram Live without warning. No announcement. No build-up. Just a sudden notification, Wack 100 is live. Tens of thousands joined instantly because every time Wack hits the button, something messy is about to explode. And tonight was no different. The moment Wack appeared on screen, he wasn't joking, wasn't laughing, wasn't trolling. His expression was serious, almost frustrated. He leaned forward and said, "Y'all keep asking me why Drake didn't drop that diss, man? Y'all don't even understand what's moving behind the curtains?" The comments section instantly erupted with messages flying faster than he could read them. Wack continued, "Let me tell y'all something. This ain't about lyrics. This ain't about who can rap better. This ain't about fan bases. This got to do with real history, real ties, real people who don't play games about certain lines being crossed." Looking dead into the camera as if trying to decide how much he should reveal. Then he said it, Piru called him. And when they call you, believe me, you pick up. A live exploded. People were screen recording instantly. Every major hip-hop page reposted the clip within minutes. Twitter turned into a war zone. Drake fans were in disbelief. Kendrick fans were celebrating. Industry people were calling each other to confirm if Wack was telling the truth. It was chaos on every platform. But the real storm wasn't online. It was happening behind the scenes. Drake's camp was furious. Not because Wack was lying, but because he was too close to the truth. They didn't want people assuming Drake was scared. They didn't want the narrative flipping against him. They wanted to keep everything under wraps. But once Wack speaks, the whole world listens. The tension grew even more when another leak popped up, a screenshot of a message. Allegedly from someone connected to Drake's team. It said, "We told him it's not worth taking it to that level. Let Kendrick bark. We're not escalating." The message was vague, but the intent was clear. Drake was told to stay out of dangerous waters. Meanwhile, Kendrick's people were watching every movement like hawks. One of Kendrick's close associates posted a cryptic tweet that instantly went viral. Some folks got checked and folded. Happens. The internet lost its mind. Everyone assumed it was directed at Drake. Debates broke out across social media like wildfire. Some said Kendrick had won. Some said this wasn't a battle Kendrick should even be in. Some said the streets had interfered too deeply. But while people argued, Wack wasn't done yet. The next morning, Wack jumped on Clubhouse and dropped another bomb. He said, "Y'all think this beef was just about rap? Nah. Drake put something in that track that hit old scars. He said something he wasn't supposed to say. Something that had nothing to do with Kendrick directly. Something tied to people who've been watching this whole situation for years." People in the room went silent. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Nobody dared interrupt. Then Wack added, "They told him flat out, stop now. Don't pull that trigger. 'Cause if you do, it ain't just Kendrick responding. It's a whole other side stepping in." Nobody knew whether Wack meant old West Coast connections, deeper street affiliations, or unresolved tensions between certain groups. But what everyone understood was simple. Drake had crossed a boundary he didn't realize existed. Behind the scenes, things got even uglier. A leaked voice note surfaced online, allegedly from a Toronto insider, claiming Drake was furious that someone outside the music business had inserted themselves into his career decisions. The voice said Drake felt blindsided, betrayed, and embarrassed. Supposedly, he even considered dropping the diss anyway, just to prove he wasn't scared. But his advisors reminded him that this wasn't about ego. This was about safety, politics, and respect. Drake didn't like it. But he listened. And that's when Kendrick's next move hit like a nuclear strike. Video appeared on Twitter of Kendrick in the studio, smirking while someone played a beat in the background. The caption read, "Sometimes silence speaks the loudest." It was a direct jab. Fans knew it. Drake knew it. The entire industry knew it. Kendrick was mocking the situation while Drake was being forced into silence. But the story didn't end there, because Wack 100, after watching Kendrick's clip, went on another rant, this time revealing something nobody saw coming. He said, "Don't get it twisted. Drake ain't scared of Kendrick. Drake is scared of who called him, and that's the difference y'all don't understand." He slammed his hand on the table and repeated, "This wasn't Kendrick. This was Piru calling shots." The internet lost control. People demanded proof. Others claimed Wack was stirring the pot. Some said he was protecting Kendrick. Others argued he was exposing Drake unnecessarily. But then something happened that confirmed everything more than any statement could. Someone from Kendrick's camp liked Wack's post, just one click. But that one click said everything. If there wasn't truth in Wack's claims, Kendrick's team would have ignored it. But they didn't. The like stayed up for almost an hour before someone removed it. But by then, screenshots had already circulated everywhere. Drake saw it. Kendrick saw it. The streets saw it, and Wack. He laughed. But even Wack didn't realize there was another layer beneath the warning. A layer that involved a different call. From a different person, that changed the situation completely. And that was the call that finally broke Drake. Drake didn't sleep that night. He sat in his studio, lights low, headphones around his neck, staring at the waveform of the diss that had set the whole West Coast on fire. Every line Kendrick dropped replayed in his head, sharper now, heavier now, almost echoing with the weight of something bigger than rap. By morning, he wasn't thinking about bars anymore. He was thinking about the consequences. Because when Wack 100 spoke, he wasn't speaking like a podcaster chasing views. He was talking like a man who had seen real wars turn deadly. He understood what Piru warnings actually meant. He understood street pride, neighborhood boundaries, respect codes that went deeper than music, deeper than fame, deeper than anything Drake had ever been wrapped in. Wack knew the difference between rap beef and blood beef. And when Drake heard Wack break it down, the message hit harder than any diss track. This ain't about Kendrick no more. This is about a city, a section, and a whole history behind it. Drake looked at his phone, scrolling through calls from his team. They wanted a response. They wanted something big, explosive, career-defining. They wanted to strike while the internet was salivating. But when you hear that an entire set, people who never cared about Billboard, Grammys, or Spotify streams, felt disrespected by your words, suddenly, music feels small. That's why Drake's tone shifted overnight. He stopped previewing snippets. He stopped playing chess on Instagram. He moved quiet, calculating, cautious. The bravado faded, replaced by survival instincts most artists never need to use. Because the truth was simple. Drake wasn't scared of Kendrick Lamar. He was scared of everyone standing behind. Kendrick Lamar and Wack 100 made sure that message spread everywhere. Even fans noticed the switch. Drake's usual subliminals disappeared. His feed went dark. No clever captions, no midnight teasers, no studio flexes. Just silence. The kind of silence that happens when someone realizes the room they're in is more dangerous than they thought. Meanwhile, Kendrick didn't have to lift a finger. His name alone held decades of LA respect. He didn't need street security, he was street security. The city wasn't behind him. It stood up for him. That's the difference. Wack exposed. Drake had stepped into the wrong arena. Kendrick didn't fight for clout, he fought for culture, and when culture rides with you, opposition has two choices: fight or fall back. Drake chose the one that kept him breathing. The final truth. Wack wasn't trying to humiliate Drake. He was trying to make sure history didn't repeat itself. He was trying to stop a rap beef from turning into something ugly, something irreversible, something that could blow past music and land in newspapers for all the wrong reasons. Drake got the message. And instead of firing off another diss, he hit the brakes. Because a man who survives this industry knows when to keep rapping and when to stop before the streets start talking louder than the music. The streets start talking louder than the music.